What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and today I'm recording a video about the weather. Yeah, the weather. Across Victoria, it's going to be a pretty hot weekend. And the Geelong and Fremantle game, which is going on at 1:20 on Saturday, is the game that is likely to be the most impacted by the weather. And there are some potential restrictions that are going to come into play that we're going to kind of talk about because we don't really see much of this in the men's game. Largely, of course, due to the time in which we play this great game. So we're going to work through what's going on and how to navigate all of that in this video. But first, a word from our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for all that you do in your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew. Now, let's get into the report here from the AFL website. Sarah Black reporting that the AFL is monitoring conditions as Victoria braces for a scorching Saturday. Now, of course, let's not get too wound up. Let's not get too crazy about this thing, because certainly in the likes of Perth and Brisbane over the years, there have been these sorts of conditions before. Really, really hot ones. And those teams are far more acclimatized to it. And that's, I don't know, potentially a bit of an advantage to Freo going into this week. But we'll talk about what is being looked into here regarding these particular games, because there's some nuance to it. And there's certainly some adjustments that could be made to the game and your experience on the day. We're going to talk about this both through the lens of the players and what will be affected on field, as well as some, I think, obvious must-dos for those attending on the day. So, with Melbourne forecast hit 37 degrees on Saturday, the league is monitoring conditions. And as a kind of highlight here, from a cyclone to a heat wave, which for Geelong, this has been a wild ride. A game already ruled out due to a cyclone, and now all of a sudden extreme heat potentially impacting their next match. So, the AFL will continue to monitor weather conditions ahead of this weekend's matches, with Melbourne forecast hit 37 degrees on Saturday and 36 degrees in Geelong. Often employed in the AFLW competition due to the season timing, the heat pulse is much rarer in the men's game. Possible mitigations include longer breaks in between quarters, extra water carriers, and no limit on the timing of when water carriers can enter the field of play, with a final decision to be made closer to the day itself. The Geelong Fremantle clash at GMHBA is the game most likely to be affected. It's also why we're speaking about it, because it's pertinent to us Geelong supporters. Scheduled for 1:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time on Saturday. Western Bulldogs and North Melbourne in what could be steamy conditions under the roof at Marvel Stadium, and Collingwood and Port Adelaide at the MCG are both scheduled to start at 7:35, at which point the temperature is unlikely to be hovering at 37. And I did actually check kind of what the weather is supposed to be into the evening. And of course, we know what weather bureaus are like. There's a lot that can change. But Saturday, by the PM, it will have dropped to below 30. It's still going to be really, really warm, but it will have dropped to below 30 degrees. So we're not talking about that same level of extreme heat. Now, what does that mean for Geelong here? Well, of course, like I said, it's been a bit of a tumultuous couple of weeks when you look at the fact that a cyclone upended our first game, and now some extreme weather is going to impact the next one. But in terms of these restrictions, they're largely fairly minimal. I have no problem with the number of water boys or water girls that go out on the field at any given point. It really doesn't matter too much. And then, the fact that they can go out whenever, wherever, and almost as many as they like, I think it's great. You want to make sure your players stay hydrated. You don't want a scenario of heat stroke. Same with the extended breaks, which we kind of see teams employ to a lesser degree when they play games on the Gold Coast or in Melbourne. There's the ice chambers, and they go and kind of like the fridges, basically they go and sit in. They have slightly longer breaks up there sometimes. Now, I don't think Geelong has the facilities because we're not used to these sort of conditions. I don't think Geelong has the facilities to enable both Geelong and Freo to have like an ice cold frozen room essentially to jump into, but they can crank those air conditioners a bit, right? So the longer breaks are going to be important for hydration and those sorts of things, for getting a break, for getting treatment and those sorts of things for any players who might be labouring a little bit. We don't need another Nick Dacos. It was a bit overblown, that whole thing, wasn't it? It's going to be a really difficult experience for players, but I think it's a really fantastic challenge. If we're talking about Geelong here, and of course we are a Geelong-based platform, it's going to be a really challenging day for Geelong. We're not used to this sort of weather. Freo absolutely are and have been training in it for weeks and months now. So it is going to be difficult in that respect. We do have that home ground advantage that has worked for us fairly well over the years. Freo have got a pretty good history against us recently at home, though. So there's a few things we're battling here going into our round one clash, and the weather is, of course, one of those. So it's going to be a really fascinating experience for those playing. It's going to be really difficult. For those of us attending, which is kind of the other pillar that I want to focus on, it's really important that we look after ourselves. We talk about things like heat stroke, and that can affect all of us, regardless of whether we're playing on field or whether we're sitting or standing in the stands. Please, I'll be going with my son on a 36, 37 degree day. It's going to be really, really hot. So please make sure, these are the obvious things, but they're the things we typically don't think of and associate with football. So I just want to put the PSA out there. If you are going to the game, make sure you bring a hat. Make sure you bring some sunscreen. Look after yourself. Don't, as much as I love a beer, don't be punching down beers left, right, and center. Get some water. Look after yourself. Keep yourself healthy, because we don't need you dropping during the game. We don't want anyone to have to go to hospital off the back of the conditions or any other reason for that matter. But we don't want this for anyone. So please make sure you're looking after yourself. Take good care of yourself. Drink up plenty. Keep hydrated. Eat. I'm sure the stadium will be happy with the amount of money they make from you, but it's your health. Please look after it. Those are my thoughts when it comes to the weather conditions impacting the Geelong and Fremantle game this weekend. It's fairly simplistic for the most part, but it is really fascinating to see this potentially coming into a play for the AFL game, because we don't often see it in the men's game simply due to that timing of the AFL men's season. The women's game, it's been played over summer a fair bit in the past. That makes more sense. It's also been in some more remote, like northern parts of Queensland at different points. That kind of makes sense as well. So this is, I won't say a first, but it's kind of a first in Victoria for a long, long time. So hopefully everyone comes out unscathed, both in terms of players and in terms of attendees. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to it. Hit that notification bell. There's so many videos we're putting out these days. I've been getting notifications on my own YouTube of my own content. It's been a bit of a fascinating time, but there's heaps of awesome stuff that we're doing on the Hoops Crew. So please make sure to check out all that we're doing. Check us out on Patreon. For the cost of $5 a month, you'll get access to extended content, early access content, and exclusive content, all there for you to consume. There's lots of great stuff from the chaps, myself, and Ben across both the free feeds on YouTube and the private side of Patreon. Consider checking out our Patreon for more there. In terms of socials, you can find me at Paul James Games. That is on Twitter. That is on Blue Sky. That is on Instagram. Check me out on any of those. Reach out if you've got questions. I'd love to hear from you. And the Hoops Crew you can find at the Hoops Crew as well. That's it for this video. Let me know if you're going to the game. Make sure you slip, slop, slap. I don't want to get too cliche, but look after yourself on the day. Thank you very much for watching. Remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.